What's going on, Twins fans? Welcome back to another episode of Twins Latest, and officially welcome to baseball season. Pitchers and catchers for our Minnesota Twins report to Fort Myers today for the start of spring training, with the rest of the team reporting on Monday. But we've got a really exciting episode to celebrate the start of spring training. You are not going to want to miss it. Before we get started, please be sure to subscribe to the channel for daily Twins updates. And let me know in the comments what you want me to discuss in the future episodes. And without any further ado, let's kick things off with a very highly touted and highly anticipated prospect deep dive. This guy's the number 2 prospect in the Twins organization, according to MLB Pipeline, as well as the 52nd overall MLB prospect. And we'll see him get some playing time here in spring training coming up. It is shortstop Kalen Culpepper. He was the Twins' first-round pick in the 2024 MLB draft, taken 21st overall out of Kansas State. He's 6 foot, 185 pounds, but he's a powerful, explosive 6 feet, 185 pounds. I can't find his exit velocity info because you can only find them for AAA online, but I've seen his reported hardest hit ball at AA last year was just under 113 miles an hour, which, if that's true, that would be a great sign that he's developing as a power hitter. Going back to his time at Kansas State, he was never a 20 to 25 home run hitter like a lot of top prospects are. Matter of fact, he only hit 26 in his 3 seasons combined, but he slowly got better over time. His batting average went up every year, as did his power numbers. He became a much more patient hitter as well. He started drawing a lot more walks. He drew 35 over his final 61 games. The point in all this is that he steadily improved year over year, and that trend has continued since he got drafted. He hit 242 across 26 games at low single A and high single A after being drafted in 2024. 8 total extra base hits and 4 stolen bases. Still drew a good amount of walks, didn't strike out a whole lot, but he just got so much better last year. He hit 293 with 9 homers in 54 games at high single A to begin the year, earning him a promotion to AA, and he just continued to mash baseballs there. He hit 285 with 11 homers in 59 games. He's already gotten more powerful year over year, and he's an above average pure hitter for a 22, now 23-year-old. His WRC plus in the minors last year was 138, with 100 being average. And I'm certainly not saying that a 138 WRC plus is going to just translate flawlessly to the major league level. But for some perspective, his 138 WRC plus last year would have been tied for the 5th best among all MLB hitters. Not too bad. He also stole 25 bases on top of all of this, so there's definitely a reason Kalen Culpepper is right on the fringe of being a top 50 MLB prospect. A lot of top shortstop prospects ultimately have to get moved over to third base. It can happen for a number of reasons, one of them being a lack of arm strength. That happened to Royce Lewis at one point. Injuries also definitely could have had something to do with that, but he does have a below average MLB arm. Kalen Culpepper can play second base or third base and has at times in the minors, but he has the tools and the traits to be a shortstop at the major league level. He has a great arm on the 20 to 80 baseball grading scale. It's at a 60, which is definitely above league average. He's a really strong defender overall, which is always great, but especially great when you can play at multiple spots in the field like he can. I'm not saying he's a guarantee to turn into a superstar, but as I said earlier, there's a reason he's just outside the top 50 MLB prospects. If he continues to add power to his bat, he has the potential to turn into, a true 5-tool player. If I had to guess, I'd say he'll start the season at AA. But if he has a great spring training, it's definitely possible he starts at AAA, and that could be the reason the Twins have him down in Fort Myers, is because they want him to be at AAA. I'd say the odds of him getting called up this year are very, very high. Not necessarily 100%, but somewhere around 90, I would think. The Twins' infield is not known for their durability. Luke Keeschall and Royce Lewis have both missed quite a bit of time in their professional careers. It could just take one injury to either of those guys before Culpepper gets his shot. And my guess would be Brooks Lee would slide over to either second or third base, and Culpepper would slide in immediately at shortstop upon being called up. He is a clear better defender over Brooks Lee. That's why I say that. But there's a lot to be excited about with Kalen Culpepper. And the ideal career arc for him is that he is, if all goes well, the Twins shortstop for the next decade plus. But moving on from Kalen Culpepper, spring training, as I mentioned, is officially underway, and I want to look at some specific roster spots and the players who will be battling for them, because the matter of the fact is, we can look at roster resource and see who they're projecting to fill each role, but those are just projections, and injuries will happen, as other things can as well, that can potentially shake things up. I'll give you an example. The number 4 and 5 spots right now in the Twins starting rotation, up for grabs. There's going to be a handful of guys competing for those last couple spots. As of right now, the projected 4th and 5th starters are Zebby Matthews and Simeon Woods Richardson. That's how I would project things out as well. Having not seen any of them during spring training, I think if you were to start the season today, that's probably who it would be. But what happens if Taj Bradley throws 20 innings during spring and gives up 2 total runs? What if David Festa does that? Those are probably the 2 other names fighting for those last spots in the rotation. So definitely keep tabs on all 4 of those names over the next several weeks. Another battle, I think, is going to be over the starting first base role. There's a few names I see getting action at first base over the course of the year, but someone will inevitably have to be the primary option. The 3 names I think we'll see battling is Josh Bell, Victor Caratini, and Cody Clemens. Clemens spent a good chunk of last season as the Twins' primary first baseman, but then the Twins went out and signed the other 2 in Bell and Caratini from free agency. If I had to place a bet on who I think the primary first baseman will be this year, my money would probably go on Victor Caratini. I think he and Cody Clemens will be a relatively 50-50 split, with Josh Bell getting some run over there as well. But I think on days Victor Caratini isn't catching, most of the time he'll probably be at first base. He doesn't have the same pop that Cody Clemens does, but he's a better pure hitter, and they're both above average defensively, which is why I see Josh Bell ending up at primary DH, because he is not a good defender. He DH'd in 98 of the 131 games he started last year with the Nationals. And then the last specific roster spot I wanted to look at is shortstop. Brooks Lee projects to be the Twins' everyday shortstop as of right now, but it's not like he's got a particularly strong grip on it. He was not a good hitter last year, and he's definitely a below-average defender, which at a premium position like shortstop is definitely a liability. That's why I just talked about Kalen Culpepper sliding in at shortstop immediately after he gets called up. Right now, for the Twins, shortstop is pretty thin in terms of backup options. Tristan Gray would be my guess for the primary backup shortstop right now, though Austin Martin could also slide in there from here and there if need be. But like I said, I think the true backup could very well end up being Kalen Culpepper, and if should something happen to Brooks Lee, I think Kalen Culpepper could be the name we see immediately step in to replace him, because I don't think it'll be super long for him to get called up. And like I said, he's already a better defender. So I think Culpepper will probably end the year as the Twins' primary shortstop. But for now, I expect a lot of Brooks Lee and perhaps some Tristan Gray or Austin Martin mixed in there. But pivoting from roster battles, we have obviously talked quite a bit at length about the Twins' rotation, their starting lineup, and the bullpen going into the season. What could go right, what could go wrong. But I wanted to briefly talk about one specific aspect of this Twins team that in order for them to possibly make a playoff push, absolutely has to work out. And that aspect is going to sound obvious, but if you've been watching Twins baseball for a while, you know this is not always how they've been operating. In order for them to reach their goals, which I'm assuming includes winning the AL Central and going to the postseason, the Twins need to be putting the ball in play and avoiding strikeouts as much as possible at the plate. This year's Twins team feels different from years past in the sense that it feels like a lot less power bats. Obviously, you still got guys like Byron Buxton and Matt Wallner who can hit 30 home runs plus this season. But with that, they're also going to strike out probably more than anybody else on the team. Aside from those 2 guys, though, it's a lot of people who are going to put the ball in play and not strike out a ton. Everyone in the Twins' projected starting lineup, aside from Buxton and Wallner, I anticipate will have an above league average strikeout rate, and did so last year, I think, for the most part, meaning there's going to be some balls put in play. Strikeouts are going to be a problem at some point during the year. They always are for every team at some point during the year. So when that happens, I'm curious to see if Derek Shelton will make major tweaks to the batting order, because if Buxton and Wallner are hitting first and fourth every day, I mean, that could be, 6 strikeouts in a game just from 2 of your top 4 spots in the batting order. It's not like it'll be only those 2 that struggle with whiffs over the course of the season. Trevor Larnach has gone on cold spells where he strikes out a lot, as has Josh Bell, as has Ryan Jeffers, etc., etc. That just happens in baseball from time to time. And I'm not saying it can't happen for the entire year for the Twins, but if they're going to make the postseason, they cannot be a team that is striking out 12 times a game because they don't have the other power bats to make that trade-off worthwhile. So they're going to have to score with a lot of singles and doubles and balls put in play that aren't leaving the park. And if that's not happening as frequently, that could lead to a really tough stretch that could ultimately derail the Twins season. And then, as always, to wrap up the episode, we've got our Twins player preview. And since today is a big day with the official start of spring training for the Twins, we're going to be looking at the best player on this Twins team in today's player preview. It is center fielder Byron Buxton, and we finally saw what happens if he stays healthy for the majority of the season. Last year, he played in 126 games, set career highs in hits, runs, RBIs, home runs, triples, and walks. On the year as a whole, he hit .264 with a .327 on-base percentage, 35 home runs, and 24 steals. We've always known, as Twins fans, that Byron Buxton is unbelievable, and I'd go as far as saying a top 10 to 20 player in baseball in terms of raw talent. So it was awesome to finally see, an extended look at what he's capable of doing. That's also now back-to-back years that he's played in at least 102 games. He'd only done that once prior to 2024. It's also back-to-back years with the batting average above .260. So that'd be great if he can, consistently be a .270 hitter from now until the end of his career. Looking at the advanced numbers on StatCast, it's exactly what you'd expect. 96th percentile in hard hit and barrel rate, 92nd percentile in average exit velocity. Across every ball that Byron Buxton hit and put in play last year, it averaged 92.5 miles per hour off his bat. That is insane. His expected batting average was down a little bit at .249, but with how hard he hits the ball, that's not ridiculous. He was also 100th percentile in sprint speed last year. He was tied for second in the league at 30.2 feet per second. And with bases 90 feet apart, just think about how fast that truly is, going from home to first or first to second or whatever it may be. It's just stupid fast. He does swing and miss quite a bit. His whiff rate was in the 11th percentile of all hitters, as was his strikeout rate. But when he makes contact, it's a beautiful thing. With his speed, there's a very slim chance of throwing him out when he attempts to steal a base. And it actually did not happen at all last year. He stole 24 bases without being thrown out once. That is ridiculously insane. And over the course of his decade-long career, he's converted a stolen base on 91% of his attempts. League average is right around 70-75%, so 91 is really, really high. I'm curious to see how much he runs in 2026 with new manager Derek Shelton. He was aggressive on the base paths last year, and I'm sure he'd love to send Buxton as much as he can, as long as he's healthy. He's always been a good defender in center field. I don't see that changing anytime soon. He spent the majority of the games he's healthy for in center, despite his injury history. I assume that will remain the same. If he's healthy, he'll be in the outfield. There's not really a whole lot else that needs to be said for Byron Buxton. We know who he is. He's going to hit the ball super hard. He's going to be one of the fastest players in the league. And health permitting, he's going to be a threat to hit 30 home runs and steal 30 bases next year. The problem, of course, is that we can't say with confidence he's going to play in 125 games again. Looking at all of his projections across a variety of different sites and sources, he's projected anywhere from 489 to 560 plate appearances this season. That's roughly about 100 to 120 games worth. I think that's a fair expectation to have for him. It feels pretty inevitable that he'll miss at least some time in 2026. You just got to hope it's something minor and not like a torn quad or a torn hamstring or something that's going to cause him to miss, 3 months or more for that matter. But I mean, if he's healthy for, 140 games, it is certainly not ridiculous to say that Byron Buxton could be very much in the MVP conversation. Health is quite literally the only question mark around Byron Buxton at this point in his career. But that is going to do it for today's episode of Twins Latest. Thank you guys for tuning in, and if you enjoyed it, please do me a huge favor and subscribe to the channel. If you have a Twins-related topic or topics that you want me to talk about in a future episode, please let me know down below in the comments. But until next time, this has been Twins Latest with me, Sam Calder, and I'm out.